Today, I'm diving deep into what makes Grave of Fireflies the most powerful Ghibli movie, and I am challenging myself to uncover its hidden layers that really hit home. Grave of Fireflies stands out in the Studio Ghibli catalog for its emotional weight and stark relevance. A film that doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of war. The film is set in the final months of World War II, focusing on the struggle of wartime Japan and the devastating impact on civilians, especially children. This was a time when the Japanese military was nearing defeat, and the country was under intense bombardment by the Allies. The daily life of civilians was marked by extreme hardship, with widespread shortages of food and medicine. Children, in particular, suffered greatly, being forced to grow up too quickly in an environment of fear and survival. The firebombing campaigns, notably the Great Tokyo Air Raid, left millions homeless and without access to basic necessities. This dire situation is vividly portrayed through the eyes of Seita and Setsuko, two siblings struggling to survive. Their story is a powerful representation of the millions of Japanese civilians, especially children, who suffered and died during this period. The historical context of Grave of Fireflies provides a poignant backdrop for exploring its key themes: loss, innocence, and survival. The character development and emotional arcs of Seita and Setsuko are central to understanding these themes. Seita, the older brother, takes on a parental role after their mother dies, while Setsuko, the younger sister, represents the innocence and vulnerability of childhood. As the story unfolds, we witness the siblings' desperate attempts to survive, marked by moments of tenderness, despair, and ultimately, heartbreak. Their journey is a powerful exploration of how loss and hardship can strip away innocence, forcing children to confront the harsh realities of adulthood. One of the most poignant aspects of Grave of Fireflies is its depiction of the final moments of Seita and Setsuko, which leaves a lasting impact on viewers. The imagery of Setsuko's death, in particular, is a heart-wrenching encapsulation of the film's emotional intensity. These scenes are not just powerful, they're a necessary part of the narrative, driving home the devastating consequences of war on the most vulnerable. The film's ability to evoke such a strong emotional response is a testament to its power and significance. Grave of Fireflies isn't just a film. It's an emotional and historic experience that stays with you long after the credits roll. The very first thing this film does is remove hope. Seita dies at the beginning. Not in a dramatic way, not surrounded by people who care. He dies like trash, on the floor of a train station, ignored. And here, as the important part, nothing else stops. Trains keep running. People keep moving. Life continues. The film tells you immediately, this story is not about if they survive. It is about why no one helped. This is the same cruelty we see in Attack on Titan, when Hannes says, I want tea strong enough to save your mother. But Grave of the Fireflies goes further. It does blame monsters. It does blame enemies. It blames normal life. Most people think Seita failed because he was careless. That is wrong. Seita failed because he believed something very human. That pride is the same thing as responsibility. He believes a man should handle things alone. That accepting help means losing dignity. That depending on others makes you weak. This is the same belief that Guts carries in Berserk. I'll survive on my own strength. And just like Guts, Seita pays for that belief with suffering. But unlike Guts, Seita does not live in a world that rewards endurance. The world Seita lives in does not care about effort. It only cares about results. And when your result is failure, your intentions don't matter. The aunt is often defended as a victim of war. And yes, she is afraid. Yes, resources are limited. Yes, survival is hard. But fear does not erase responsibility. Because Seita and Setsuko are not strangers. They are children. They are family. And the aunt makes a choice, again and again, to remind them that they are unwanted. She does starve them outright. She does something quieter and far more damaging. She compares. She shames. She withholds warmth before she withholds food. She eats better portions. She praises her own children for contributing. She tells Seita that he is useless, while knowing he is still a child himself. This is not survival. This is emotional abandonment. And children don't survive long without dignity. She notices Setsuko growing weaker. She notices the coughing, the slower steps, the hunger. And yet, she chooses irritation over care because caring would require effort. And effort feels unfair when you're already exhausted. That is her mistake. Not cruelty, but convenience. This is where the film becomes brutal. Because the aunt never believes she is doing wrong. She believes she is being practical. Just like many adults do when they justify harm with realism. In Monster, Johan says, "The only thing all humans are equal in is death." The aunt does kill Setsuko, but she accepts a world where a child's suffering is tolerable as long as her own life remains stable. And that acceptance is enough. The aunt does hate Setsuko, but she stops seeing her as a child. She sees her as a mouth, a cost, a problem. And once a child becomes a problem, neglect becomes easy to explain. This is why Seita leaves. Not because he is reckless, not because he is arrogant, but because staying feels like watching his sister disappear in front of someone who refuses to notice. And that choice, tragic, emotional, human, leads them straight into starvation. The aunt is not the villain of this story, but she is one of its failures. A reminder that tragedy does require hatred. Only the moment when an adult decides that caring is no longer worth the effort. Setsuko never understands the war. She does know what nations are. She does know what enemies are. She only knows hunger, fear, and trust. Her world is simple. If her brother is there, she is safe. That is why her pain cuts deeper than Seita. As Seita understands loss, Setsuko does not. In a silent voice, Shoya says, "I did to know how to live, so I hurt others." Setsuko never hurts anyone. She only exists, and somehow, that is enough for the world to abandon her. The Fireflies are often described as poetic, as a symbol, as a metaphor. But in Grave of the Fireflies are not poetry. They are a warning. Fireflies are beautiful precisely because they do not last. They glow for a moment, gently lighting the darkness, and then they disappear without leaving anything behind. They don't die dramatically. They don't announce their ending. They simply stop glowing. And that quiet disappearance mirrors the kind of death this film is about. For Setsuko, the Fireflies are not symbols. They are comfort. The night is cold. The shelter is dark. Bombs have taken the sky away from her. But the Fireflies turn fear into something manageable. For a few hours, the darkness does feel endless. For a few hours, she can smile. That smile is not hope. It is relief. When morning comes, the Fireflies are dead. Their bodies scattered on the ground, just as quietly as they lived. And Setsuko does something that no adult in this film does. She notices. She gathers them. She buries them. She gives them more care in death than the world ever gave them in life. Then she asks the question that breaks the film open. Why do fireflies have to die so soon? She is not asking about insects. She is asking about her mother. She is asking about herself. She is asking about a world that keeps taking things before she has time to understand them. Seita cannot answer, because there is no gentle way to explain neglect to a child. The truth is never spoken aloud in this film, but it exists in every quiet frame. Fireflies die early because nothing is protecting them. Not because they are weak, not because they are useless, but because the world does not pause for things that are soft. This is why the fireflies matter more than any speech. Because Setsuko does not cry over them. She accepts their death as natural, and that acceptance is terrifying. Because it means she is already learning that disappearance is normal, that beauty is temporary, that love does not guarantee safety. The fireflies glow together. They light the darkness collectively, but they die alone. And that is the final warning of this scene. Even when fragile lives shine together, if no one intervenes, they will still be gone by morning. The fireflies are not a metaphor for war. They are a mirror. They reflect a world where gentle things are allowed to vanish because saving them would require attention. And attention is always in short supply. This moment tells you everything you need to know about how this story will end. Because once a child starts burying beauty and asking why it dies so easily, the world has already failed her. When Seita leaves his aunt's house, the decision does not feel reckless. It feels necessary. Every day inside that house strips something away from Setsuko. Not just food, but warmth, but patience, but dignity. The aunt does beat them. She does throw them out. She does something subtler. She reminds them constantly that they are a burden. And for a child like Setsuko, that message is poison. Seita watches his sister grow quieter. He hears the comparisons. He sees the better portion. He notices how quickly irritation replaces concern. And slowly, a dangerous thought forms. Maybe leaving is safer than staying. Not safer from hunger, but safer from emotional erosion. Seita does believe he is choosing comfort. He believes he is choosing protection. He believes distance will preserve Setsuko's innocence. That independence will shield her from cruelty. That love will somehow compensate for lack. And that belief is his fatal error. This is not pride. This is misplaced faith. Faith that effort is enough. Faith that care alone can replace structure. Faith that a child's love can outwork reality. In Vinland Saga, Thorfinn eventually understands that fighting imaginary enemies only prolongs suffering. Seita never reaches that clarity. Because Seita's enemy is not a person. It is hunger. It is time. It is a system that does not wait for children to grow up. And you cannot protect someone from that by running away from it. When Seita leaves, he is not abandoning responsibility. He is accepting it too early, taking on a role too large for a boy who has never been taught how unforgiving the world becomes once adults stop intervening. The tragedy is not that Seita makes the wrong choice. The tragedy is that every choice available to him leads toward loss. There is no dramatic music when Setsuko begins to weaken. No sudden breakdown. No moment where the film tells you to prepare. Her suffering arrives quietly. She walks a little slower than before. She sits down more often. She stops finishing her meal. At first, it's easy to ignore. Because nothing feels urgent yet. Hunger does not destroy the body all at once. It erodes it. And the most dangerous part of erosion is how normal it begins to feel. Setsuko starts imagining food not because she is playful, but because her body is desperate. She talks about meals that don't exist. She smiles while describing them. And Seita allows himself to believe this is still innocence, that she is coping. Then comes the moment that ends denial. Setsuko makes rice balls, except they aren't tea rice. They are dirt, carefully shaped, carefully presented. She is proud of them. And in that moment, the film quietly tells you the truth. This is not imagination. This is not play. This is the mind protecting itself from starvation. Seita finally understands, not with panic, not with screaming, with silence. Because there is nothing left to misunderstand. Love has reached its limit. This is where Grave of the Fireflies delivers its cruelest lesson. You can care deeply. You can be devoted. You can sacrifice everything and still fail. Because love without action is not enough to keep someone alive. Setsuko does not die screaming. She dies exhausted. Her body has simply run out of arguments. No final words. No dramatic goodbye, just the quiet end of a child who waited too long for help that never came. And when she is gone, the world remains exactly the same. Trains still move, people still eat, The sky does not darken. In Naruto, Pain says, people only understand each other through pain. But Grave of the Fireflies says something far colder. Even pain is ignored when acknowledging it would slow life down. Seita survives Setsuko, and that survival is his punishment. He carries her ashes, returns to the same train station, sits among strangers who do not see him. He has become invisible. This is where Seita stops being a character and becomes a shadow. Just like Reiner in Attack on Titan says, I am just a half-assed piece of shit. But Seita does not confess. He does not rage. He simply fades. Because guilt does not always scream. Sometimes it just lingers until there is nothing left but existence without purpose. The city is bright, alive, rebuilt. Lights stretch across the skyline. Buildings stand where ashes once fell. From a distance, it looks like recovery. Seita and Setsuko sit together, watching it. They do not speak. They do not react. They are no longer part of this world. They are witness. This is where Grave of the Fireflies stops being a film and becomes an accusation. Because this city exists only because others disappeared. Its streets were rebuilt over stories that were never told. Its lights shine because suffering was buried deep enough to stop being visible. Progress does not remember casualty. It measures success in survival rates, not in names. It celebrates what continues, not what was lost quietly. Seita and Setsuko are not ghosts haunting the city. They are reminded that the future is often constructed by stepping over the past. That rebuilding does not mean just, that healing does not mean accountability. This final image does not ask you to cry. It asks you to recognize something uncomfortable. That the world you live in right now is full of light built on invisible graves.